They say your wedding day is supposed to be the happiest day of your life. The day when everything you've dreamed about since you were a little girl finally comes true. The white dress, the flowers, the man you love waiting at the end of the aisle. Your family and friends gathered to celebrate the beginning of your forever. I believed that. God. I really believed that. I spent 3 years with Tyler Morrison, planning our future, building our life together. I thought I knew him. I thought I knew what forever looked like. I was wrong about a lot of things. But I'll get to that. My name is Sarah Chen, and I'm a pediatric nurse at Children's Hospital in Philadelphia. I'm 32 now, but this story happened when I was 28, on what was supposed to be the most beautiful day of my life. October 15th, at Sunset Ridge Vineyard, in the Pennsylvania countryside. A fall wedding with golden leaves and crisp air, and everything perfectly, impossibly beautiful. 150 guests. A string quartet. A reception tent with Edison lights strung overhead like stars. My dress cost $3,000. The flowers alone were $8,000. Tyler's family contributed $60,000 to the wedding. My parents, immigrants who'd worked their entire lives to give me opportunities they never had, emptied their savings to contribute $40,000. We're talking about a $150,000 production. But it wasn't about the money. It was about the celebration. About family. About love. Or so I thought. Tyler and I met at a hospital fundraiser 4 years before the wedding. He was there representing Morrison Development, the real estate company his family owned. They were major donors. I was there because I actually worked at the hospital and they made us volunteer at these events. He was charming, confident, successful. 27 years old and already a vice president in his father's company. He had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room. When he asked for my number, I thought I'd won the lottery. Our first date was at this upscale Italian restaurant where he knew the owner. Our second date was a helicopter ride over the city. By our third date, I was completely gone. My parents loved him. My dad, who never approved of anyone, actually smiled when Tyler talked about his 5-year business plan. My mom, who'd always worried I focused too much on my career, started hinting about grandchildren. Tyler fit perfectly into my life. He got along with my friends. He remembered my coworkers' names. He brought my parents homemade dumplings from their favorite restaurant every time we visited. He was perfect. Too perfect, probably. But I didn't see it then. Jessica Parker, my maid of honor, was my college roommate. We met freshman year at Penn State, bonded over terrible dining hall food and even worse dating choices, and had been inseparable ever since. When I moved to Philadelphia for my job at Children's Hospital, Jess moved too. She worked in marketing at a tech startup downtown. We lived together for 2 years in a tiny apartment in Rittenhouse Square before I moved in with Tyler. She was my person. My best friend. The sister I never had. When Tyler proposed on my 26th birthday, at the restaurant where we had our first date, with my entire family hiding in a private room to surprise me afterward, Jess was the first person I called. She cried harder than I did. She helped me pick out my dress. She planned my bachelorette party in Miami. She addressed every single wedding invitation by hand because she said it was more personal. I trusted her with everything. The morning of October 15th started like a dream. I woke up in the bridal suite at Sunset Ridge, sunlight streaming through the windows, overlooking rows of grapevines painted gold and crimson with fall colors. My bridesmaids were already there. My mom was crying happy tears while steaming my dress. The photographer was capturing every moment. Hair and makeup artists had transformed the suite into a salon. There was champagne, though I barely touched mine. I was too excited. Too nervous. Too everything. This was it. The day I'd been planning for 18 months. The day that would change my life forever. I just didn't know how right that feeling was. Tyler was getting ready in a separate building on the property with his groomsmen. We decided to do a first look at 2 o'clock, then ceremony at 4, reception at 5:30. It was 1 o'clock when I started noticing something was off. Jess kept checking her phone. She'd duck out of the room, come back, looking flustered, then leave again 15 minutes later. At first, I thought she was coordinating with the wedding planner. Jess was always the organized one, the one who made sure everything ran smoothly. But by 1:30, when my hair was done, and I was getting my makeup finished, I noticed she'd been gone for 20 minutes. I texted her. "Where are you? Almost time to get me in my dress." No response. I called. Straight to voicemail. My cousin Emily, one of my bridesmaids, offered to go find her. She came back 10 minutes later, confused. "I can't find her anywhere. She's not in the bathroom, not outside, not with the wedding planner. Her car is still here though." Something cold settled in my stomach. It wasn't like Jess to disappear, especially today of all days. I tried to push down the anxiety. Maybe she was feeling sick. Maybe she needed air. Maybe her phone died. But that cold feeling wouldn't go away. I've been a nurse for 6 years. I'm trained to trust my instincts when something feels wrong. And something felt very, very wrong. At 1:45, I was in my dress, this beautiful ivory gown with delicate lace sleeves and a cathedral train. I looked like a bride from a magazine. But my maid of honor was missing, and I had a first look scheduled in 15 minutes. I tried calling Tyler. No answer. Tried his best man, Marcus. No answer. Tried Tyler's younger brother, James. No answer. What the hell was going on? My mom touched my arm. "Sarah, maybe they're all together doing some last-minute surprise? You know how Tyler likes to plan things." I wanted to believe her. But that cold feeling had turned into ice. At 2 o'clock, I made a decision. I was going to find them myself. I told my bridesmaids to wait, hiked up my dress, slipped on the sneakers I'd worn earlier, and walked out of the bridal suite. The venue had a main building with several rooms, connected by long hallways. The groomsmen were supposed to be in a suite on the opposite end. I walked through the hallway, my dress rustling, my heart pounding. I passed the event coordinator, who looked confused to see me out of the bridal suite, but I kept walking. I was about to knock on the groomsmen's suite when I heard voices. Male voices. I recognized Marcus and James. They were coming down the hallway toward me, looking stressed. "Is Tyler with you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. They stopped dead. Exchanged a look that made my blood freeze. "Sarah," Marcus said carefully. "You should go back to your suite. We'll handle this." "Handle what? Where is Tyler? Where is Jess? Why is no one answering their phones?" James, who was only 24 and terrible at lying, blurted out. "We don't know where they are. We've been looking for 20 minutes. Marcus shot him a look that could kill. "What do you mean you don't know where they are?" My voice was getting louder now. "The first look is supposed to happen in 5 minutes. The ceremony is in 2 hours. Where are they?" "Sarah, please." Marcus put his hand on my arm. "Go back to your suite. We'll find them." I shook him off. As a pediatric nurse, I deal with emergencies daily. I run codes. I make life or death decisions. I don't fall apart in a crisis. And right then, every instinct I had was screaming that this was a crisis. "Are they together?" I asked quietly. The look on Marcus's face told me everything. I started walking. Not back to my suite. Forward. Down the hallway. There were several smaller rooms in this part of the building. Storage, office space, a few smaller guest suites for family who'd stayed overnight. The guys followed me, trying to get me to stop, but I wasn't listening anymore. I was in pure emergency mode. Find the problem. Assess the situation. Take action. I tried 3 doors. Locked. 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 The 4th door, at the very end of the hallway, was unlocked. I turned the handle slowly. Behind me, Marcus was saying, "Sarah, don't." But I was already pushing the door open. The room was dim. Heavy curtains drawn. It took my eyes a second to adjust. And then I saw them. Tyler's suit jacket on the floor. His shirt. His pants. Women's clothing. That's when I recognized the coral-colored bridesmaid dress. Jess's dress. The one we'd picked out together at that boutique in Rittenhouse Square 8 months ago. And on the bed, under a white sheet, 2 people were scrambling to sit up. Two people who definitely weren't supposed to be in this room together. Two people who definitely weren't supposed to be in any room together, especially not 2 hours before my wedding. Tyler's face when he saw me. I'll never forget it. Pure shock. Then panic. Then, somehow, an attempt at composure, as if composure could save him now. Sarah, he started. Don't. My voice didn't sound like mine. It was too calm. Too cold. Don't say a word. Jess was crying, holding the sheet to her chest. Sarah, please, I can explain. Explain what? I was amazed at how steady my voice was. In the doorway behind me, Marcus and James stood frozen. Explain why my fiancé and my maid of honor are in bed together 2 hours before my wedding? That's when I noticed Tyler's phone on the nightstand. And Jess's phone next to it. Both turned off. They'd turned their phones off. This wasn't some drunken accident. This was planned. They'd coordinated this. They'd snuck away from their separate preparation rooms, turned off their phones, locked themselves in this room, and a strange calm washed over me. It was the same calm I feel when a kid codes in the ICU. Everything else falls away. You see the situation clearly. You know exactly what needs to be done. No emotion, just action. How long? I asked. Sarah. Tyler tried again. How long has this been going on? Silence. Then Jess whispered. 6 months. 6 months. 6 months while I planned our wedding. 6 months while I picked flowers and tasted cakes and addressed invitations. 6 months while Jess helped me with all of it, smiling and supportive and lying to my face every single day. 6 months while Tyler told me he loved me, while he made love to me, while he talked about our future and our children and our life together. Get dressed, I said quietly. Sarah, please listen, Tyler started. Get dressed. I looked him dead in the eye. Both of you. Right now. But I had a better idea. While they stared at me, uncertain, I turned around and walked out of the room. Marcus and James parted to let me through. In the hallway, I spotted a storage closet. Inside were extra linens, supplies, and importantly, a large trash bag. I grabbed it, walked back to that room, and before either Tyler or Jess could react, I gathered every piece of their clothing from the floor. His suit. His shirt. His pants. His shoes. Hair bridesmaid dress. Hair underwear. Hair heels. Everything. Sarah, what are you doing? Jess's voice was panicked now. What does it look like? I stuffed everything into the trash bag. I'm helping you get dressed. Sarah, please. Tyler was wrapped in the sheet now, standing. This isn't what it looks like. I actually laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. Really, Tyler? You're going with this isn't what it looks like? You're naked in bed with my maid of honor. What else could it possibly look like? It just happened, Jess sobbed. We didn't mean for it to happen. It just happened for 6 months. I shook my head. If it just happened once, you would have told me. You would have come to me immediately, devastated, begging forgiveness. But you didn't. You planned this. You turned off your phones. You snuck away from your rooms. You made choices, over and over again, for 6 months. I looked at Marcus and James, who were watching this disaster unfold with identical expressions of horror. Go get Tyler's father. And his mother. And my parents. Bring them here. Now. Sarah, no. Tyler's voice cracked. Please don't do this. Don't do what? Tell the truth? I pulled out my phone. Actually, wait. Before you guys go get everyone, I need to document this. Document what? Tyler looked confused. I opened my phone camera and took a photo. Tyler and Jess, wrapped in sheets, their clothes gone, guilty expressions frozen forever. Then I started recording a video. It's 1:57 p.m. On October 15th. I'm standing in a guest room at Sunset Ridge Vineyard. Behind me are my fiancé, Tyler Morrison, and my maid of honor, Jessica Parker. They've been having an affair for 6 months. I just found them in bed together, 2 hours before our wedding ceremony. This is what betrayal looks like. I turned the camera to show them clearly. Jess was sobbing. Tyler looked like he might throw up. I stopped recording. Sarah, please. Tyler's voice was desperate now. Don't show that to anyone. Please. My family, my father's business, this will destroy. Destroy what? Your reputation? Your perfect image? I felt something cold and hard settle in my chest. You destroyed us. You destroyed 3 years of my life. You destroyed my trust. You destroyed my wedding day. Why should I protect you now? Sarah. Jess's voice was small. I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. I love you. You're my best friend. Best friends don't sleep with your fiancé. I looked at her, really looked at her. Was it worth it? Was he worth throwing away 10 years of friendship? She just cried harder. I turned back to Marcus and James. Get everyone. Tyler's parents, my parents, and honestly? Get anyone else who was involved in planning this wedding. They deserve to know why it's not happening. Sarah. Tyler took a step toward me, sheet wrapped around him. Don't come near me. My voice was ice. You don't get to touch me ever again. You don't get to talk to me. You don't get anything from me except the truth. I walked out of that room with the trash bag full of their clothes and my phone full of evidence. Marcus and James scrambled after me. In the hallway, I handed Marcus the trash bag. Hold on to these, I said. Don't give them back until everyone arrives. Then I made a phone call. Not to my parents. Not to Tyler's parents. To Derek, the DJ we'd hired for the reception. He picked up on the first ring. Sarah. Hey. I'm at the venue setting up. Everything's looking great. You must be so excited. Derek, I need you to do something for me. Can you access the video screens we rented for the reception? Sure, yeah. The 3 big screens in the tent? They're all set up and connected to my laptop. I was planning to run your highlight reel during dinner. Change of plans. I'm about to send you a video. I need you to play it on all 3 screens. As soon as I send it. Can you do that? There was a pause. Sarah, is everything okay? No. Everything is not okay. But can you do it? Of course. Whatever you need. I airdropped him the video I'd just recorded. Got it? Just came through. Sarah, are you sure about this? More sure than I've ever been about anything. I hung up and walked back to the bridal suite. My bridesmaids rushed toward me, questions tumbling out. Where had I been? What happened? Where was Jess? I held up my hand. I need everyone to go to the reception tent right now. Everyone. Tell anyone you see to go to the tent. Wedding guests, vendors, everyone. Tell them there's an important announcement. My cousin Emily grabbed my arm. Sarah, what's going on? Just do it. Please. I need everyone in that tent in 10 minutes. They left, confused but obedient. My mom stayed. She looked at me with those knowing eyes that mothers have. Sarah, baby, what happened? I found Tyler and Jess together. Mom. In bed. Her hand flew to her mouth. Then her eyes flashed with something I'd never seen before. Rage. Pure. Protective rage. I'm going to kill him, she said quietly. No. I touched her arm. You're not. Because I'm going to do something better. I'm going to tell the truth. 10 minutes later, I walked down the stone path toward the reception tent, still in my wedding dress, still in my sneakers, my mother beside me. Guests were filing in, confused. I could hear the murmur of voices. What's happening? Why are we gathering now? The ceremony isn't for another hour and a half. I walked to the entrance of the tent. 150 people were there. My family. Tyler's family. Friends. Coworkers. Business associates. All dressed in their finest, all expecting a celebration. The 3 massive video screens Derek had set up were positioned around the tent, currently showing a blank blue screen. I looked at Derek. He looked at me, his hand hovering over his laptop. I nodded. The screens lit up. My face appeared, massive and crystal clear on all 3 screens. My voice echoed through the tent's sound system. It's 1:57 p.m. on October 15th. I'm standing in a guest room at Sunset Ridge Vineyard. Behind me are my fiancé, Tyler Morrison, and my maid of honor, Jessica Parker. They've been having an affair for 6 months. I just found them in bed together, 2 hours before our wedding ceremony. This is what betrayal looks like. The camera panned. And there they were, in high definition on 3 giant screens, for everyone to see. Tyler and Jess, wrapped in sheets, guilty expressions frozen for all eternity. The tent erupted. Gasps. Screams. Tyler's mother sobbed. My father swore in Mandarin, words I'd never heard him use. Tyler's father stood up, his face purple with rage or embarrassment or both. People were talking over each other, the noise building to a roar. And in the middle of it all, I stood there in my wedding dress, completely calm. The video ended. The screens went back to blue. Everyone turned to look at me. There won't be a wedding today, I said into the microphone Derek handed me. My voice was steady. Clear. Tyler Morrison and Jessica Parker have been having an affair for 6 months. I found them together less than an hour ago. I'm sharing this with all of you because you deserve to know the truth. You took time out of your lives to be here. Some of you traveled across the country. You bought gifts. You got dressed up. You were here to celebrate love and commitment and loyalty. You deserve to know why that celebration isn't happening. It's not happening because the man I was going to marry, and the woman who was supposed to stand beside me at the altar chose to betray me in the worst way possible. They don't get to hide that. They don't get to lie about it. They don't get to control the narrative. The tent was silent now. Every eye on me. I could see Tyler's father heading toward the main building, probably to find his son. My own father sat with his head in his hands. The reception food is paid for, I continued. The bar is open. You're all welcome to stay and eat and drink. Lord knows somebody should enjoy this $150,000 production. But I won't be joining you. I have a wedding dress to take off. I handed the microphone back to Derek and walked back up the path toward the main building. Behind me, the tent exploded again with noise. But I didn't look back. I just kept walking. I met Tyler in the hallway. He'd gotten dressed somehow, probably borrowed clothes from someone. His face was red and blotchy. His father was with him, looking like he wanted to commit murder. His mother was crying. My own parents were there too, my father's arm around my mother. Sarah. Tyler's voice cracked. How could you do that? How could you humiliate me like that in front of everyone? I stopped walking. Looked at him. Really looked at him. This man I'd loved for 3 years. This man I'd planned to spend my life with. And I felt nothing. No love. No hate. Just nothing. How could I humiliate you? I repeated slowly. Tyler, you humiliated yourself. You and Jess made choices. You chose to have an affair. You chose to continue it for 6 months. You chose to sneak off together on our wedding day. You chose to turn off your phones and lock yourselves in that room. Those were your choices. I simply chose not to lie about them. But my father's business, my reputation, are not my problem anymore. I turned to his father. Mr. Morrison, I'm sorry you had to find out this way. I'm sorry this has caused embarrassment to your family. But your son is 30 years old. His choices are his responsibility, not mine. Tyler's father looked at me with something like respect in his eyes. Then he turned to his son. We'll talk about this later. At home. Right now, you need to apologize to this woman and her family. Dad. Now. Tyler turned to me. He looked broken. Good. Sarah, I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen. It just happened. We didn't plan it. We tried to stop. But we couldn't. I do love you. I love you so much. This was it was a mistake. A terrible mistake. It wasn't a mistake. My voice was flat. Mistakes happen once. You had an affair for 6 months. You made that choice over and over again. Every time you met her in secret. Every time you lied to me. Every time you kissed me while planning your next meeting with her. Those weren't mistakes. Those were choices. Sarah, please. He was crying now. Please. I know I don't deserve it, but please. Can we talk about this? Privately? Can we figure this out? There's nothing to figure out. I pulled my engagement ring off my finger. The 3-carat diamond he'd proposed with. The ring his grandmother had worn. The ring that was supposed to symbolize forever. I held it up so everyone could see it, then I dropped it on the floor, between us. It bounced once, twice, then rolled under a console table. You can keep the ring. Consider it a souvenir of the wedding that didn't happen. I walked past him, past his parents, past everyone, and back to the bridal suite. My bridesmaids were there, Emily hugging me immediately. I stood in the middle of the room in my $3,000 dress and started laughing. Not happy laughter. Hysterical, exhausted, relieved laughter. Help me out of this dress, I said. I never want to see it again. Within an hour, I was in jeans and a sweater, my makeup washed off, my carefully styled hair pulled into a ponytail. I'd packed a bag. One of my cousins was driving me to my parents' house. On my way out, I passed the reception tent. Through the open sides, I could see people actually had stayed. They were eating the expensive catered food, drinking the top-shelf liquor, talking in animated groups. The scandal of the decade. They'd be talking about this for years. I saw Jess near the parking lot, still in a bathrobe someone must have given her, getting into her car. Our eyes met for a second. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say something. I looked away and kept walking. She didn't deserve my words. She didn't deserve anything from me. The next few weeks were a nightmare. The story spread like wildfire. Social media, though I stayed off it completely. Local news even picked it up, that's how big a disaster it was. Tyler tried to call me 47 times the first 3 days. I blocked his number. He sent emails. I deleted them without reading. He showed up at my parents' house. My father, all 5'6" of him, told Tyler if he ever came back, he'd regret it. Tyler didn't come back. Jess sent me a letter. A long, handwritten letter delivered to my parents' house. My mom brought it to me with disgust on her face. I threw it away without opening it. I didn't need her explanation. I didn't need her apology. I didn't need anything from her. What I did need was to reclaim my life. And that started with financial accountability. I hired a lawyer. A shark of a lawyer who specialized in broken engagement cases. She contacted Tyler with a simple demand: reimburse me for half of the wedding costs that weren't refundable, plus the cost of my dress, plus emotional damages. Total: $85,000. Tyler's lawyer tried to argue that I'd publicly humiliated his client, that showing the video was vindictive. That I'd damaged his reputation and his father's business relationships. My lawyer pointed out that truth is an absolute defense, and that all I'd done was document and share factual information. We could go to court, where everything would become even more public, or Tyler could write a check. He wrote the check. With that money, and with my savings, I made a decision. I requested a 3-month unpaid leave from the hospital. My supervisor, who'd been invited to the wedding, and had seen everything, approved it immediately. Then, I called a non-profit organization I'd been following for years. Doctors Without Borders. They had a need for pediatric nurses on a medical mission in Guatemala. 3 months, living in a rural area, providing healthcare to children who had no access to medical facilities. I applied. They accepted. 2 weeks later, I was on a plane. Guatemala saved me. Not in some eat, pray, love cliché way. But in a real, tangible way. I spent 14-hour days in a makeshift clinic, treating malnutrition, infections, parasites, things I'd only read about in textbooks. I slept in a shared room with 3 other nurses. I showered in lukewarm water under a bucket. I learned Spanish out of necessity. I was exhausted every single day. And I didn't think about Tyler, or Jess, or the wedding once. Okay, that's a lie. I thought about them. But less and less. And when I did think about them, it hurt less. The anger faded into something else. Not forgiveness, exactly. But acceptance. Acceptance that they'd made their choices, and I'd made mine. Acceptance that the wedding not happening was the best thing that could have happened to me. Because if I'd married Tyler, I would have been tied to a man who could lie to my face for 6 months, who could compartmentalize an affair while planning a wedding, who was fundamentally not who I thought he was. Better to discover that in a humiliating, painful way than to discover it 5 years and 2 kids into a marriage. In Guatemala, I met Alex Rodriguez. Dr. Alex Rodriguez, a trauma surgeon from Chicago doing a 6-month rotation with Doctors Without Borders. He was 33, quiet, dedicated, and completely uninterested in playing games. We worked together daily. We got to know each other slowly, over shared meals of rice and beans, over late-night conversations about patients, over early morning hikes to the clinic. He knew about my story. Everyone did. It had made enough news that when I'd introduced myself, one of the other doctors had said, "Oh, you're that nurse from Philadelphia." But Alex never asked about it. Never pressed. Just treated me like a colleague, then like a friend, then like something more. Nothing happened between us in Guatemala. We were both professionals. We both had jobs to do. But on my last day, as I was packing to fly home, he asked if he could write to me. Old-fashioned letters, he said, since internet access at his next posting would be limited. I said yes. We wrote letters for 8 months. Real, handwritten letters that took weeks to arrive. Letters about our work, our families, our dreams, our fears. I told him things I'd never told anyone. He did the same. It was the slowest, most genuine relationship I'd ever built. And when he finally returned to the States and asked if he could take me to dinner, I said yes. Our first date was nothing like my first date with Tyler. No fancy restaurant, no helicopter ride. Just coffee at a diner near the hospital where he'd picked up a temporary position. We talked for 4 hours. He told me about losing his mother to cancer when he was 16. I told him about the guilt I'd felt for not seeing Tyler's betrayal coming. He said some things you can't see because you're too close. I said sometimes people are just good liars. We both agreed that trust is built slowly, earned through consistent actions, not grand gestures. He kissed me goodnight outside that diner, and it felt like coming home. 2 years later, we got married. Not at a vineyard. Not with 150 guests. Just 40 people, in my parents' backyard, with a justice of the peace and a potluck reception. I wore a simple white dress that cost $300. Alex wore the suit he'd worn to his medical school graduation. My cousin Emily was my maid of honor. No drama. No betrayal. No massive production. Just love. I never heard from Tyler again after that check cleared. I heard through mutual acquaintances that his father's business took a hit from the scandal. That Tyler left Philadelphia and moved to Boston. That his engagement to someone else fell apart a year later. I felt nothing when I heard that news. Not satisfaction. Not vindication. Nothing. He was a chapter in my life that had closed. I'd moved on. Jess tried to reach out once more, about a year after the wedding. She sent another letter to my parents' house. My mom texted me a photo of it with the caption, "Should I burn this or just throw it out?" I told her to throw it out. I didn't need closure from Jess. I'd already given myself closure. Forgiveness is overrated. It's something people push on you so they can feel better about what they did. I didn't need to forgive Jess to move on. I just needed to understand that she'd made her choices and I'd made mine. Her choices led to her losing her best friend, her reputation, and from what I heard, most of her friend group who'd sided with me. My choices led to a new career path, a husband who actually values honesty, and a life that's authentic. Last month, Alex and I had our first child. A daughter. We named her Maya. She's perfect, with Alex's dark hair and my nose, and absolutely no patience for anything, which means she's going to be exactly like both of us. Sometimes I think about that day at the vineyard. If Tyler hadn't cheated, if I'd actually married him, I wouldn't have Maya. I wouldn't have Alex. I wouldn't have this life. I'd be married to a liar, probably eventually discovering his next affair, probably miserable and pretending to be happy. People always ask if I regret how I handled it. Showing that video. Making it public. humiliating Tyler and Jess in front of everyone. And my answer is always the same. No. I don't regret it. Not for a second. They made the choice to betray me. I made the choice not to lie about it. I made the choice to refuse to protect people who'd hurt me. I made the choice to control my own narrative instead of letting them craft some story about mutual incompatibility or cold feet. Actions have consequences. They learned that. I learned that I'm stronger than I ever knew. That I don't need someone to complete me. That I can survive the worst betrayal and come out better on the other side. That sometimes the worst day of your life is actually the first day of your real life. So, yes, they say, your wedding day is supposed to be the happiest day of your life. Mine wasn't. Mine was probably the worst day of my life. But it led to the actual happiest days. The days I spent in Guatemala, finding myself. The day Alex told me he loved me. The day we got married in my parents' backyard. The day Maya was born. Tyler and Jess didn't ruin my life. They redirected it. And that redirection was the best thing that ever happened to me, even though I couldn't see it at the time. Even though it hurt more than anything I'd ever experienced. Even though I wanted to disappear, to hide, to pretend it never happened. I'm grateful now. Grateful for the betrayal that set me free. Grateful that I caught them before I married him. Grateful that I had the courage to tell the truth even when it would have been easier to lie, to hide, to protect everyone's feelings but my own. The girl who needed someone to complete her is gone. The woman who knows her own worth stands in her place. And that woman? She's pretty damn unbreakable. So when people ask what I did when I found my fiancé in bed with my maid of honor 2 hours before my wedding, I smile. And I say, I told the truth. And then I built a better life than I ever could have imagined. That's the real ending. Not revenge. Not forgiveness. Just truth. And moving forward. And that's enough.